What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, coming at you today with another episode of Does It Suck? The show where we take a deep dive look at a new game and see what's good or bad about it. This time we're going to be checking out Apex Legends, a new game that just randomly appeared today that is very mysterious and yet has a lot of people talking, mostly because this was created by Respawn Entertainment, the masterminds behind stuff like the classic Call of Duties that were actually good, and stuff like Titanfall. So obviously, these dudes know a lot about how to make a good shooter, and how to make every moment of action feel very intense. But let's just get this out of the way. What we have here is quite obviously yet another free-to-play battle royale. You're going to be dropping in, shooting people, grabbing loot, and trying to be the last man standing, and then eventually you're going to be looking at some microtransaction screens. But even still, there is something in this that massively sets it apart. Something that I think really gives it a spark that I enjoyed more than I thought I was going to do, which is that this is a very technical shooter in my opinion. One that tries to reward skill over just loot. It tries to challenge you and push you to improve without ever feeling like any aspect of it is unfair. With that being said, let's just take a look at a full match. That way you get an idea of what really I'm talking about. So the first thing you're going to notice here is that it seems like everything in this game will only be teams of 3, minor squads. I didn't see any sort of option whatsoever, at least on launch day, to play by yourself, with duos, or with teams of 4. You're a trilogy no matter what. But the second aspect of this that's very different is that this is heavily class-based. There are several different kinds of character you can play as, but each one has specific skills. You cannot mix and match their skills though, so basically if you're choosing somebody, you're basically selecting all of their special abilities to go along with the stuff you're finding in the field. Now there are 3 separate categories of people you can play as. I call them the healers, the killers, and the blockers, which basically means the people who are good at reviving people and using different heals. There's the people who have really great things like smoke grenades or being able to call in airstrikes, and then blockers, which are typically the people who can put down different kinds of giant bubble shields and things that can dramatically deter the enemy when they're coming to hunt you down. Now the big twist of this is that not only are each of these characters very different and all honestly very fun to play, but you cannot have 2 on any team, which means that when you're dropping into this map, there are 60 players, 20 teams of 3 players, and each person has to be their own character per squad, which means that if I'm playing as this awesome robot assassin, I'm going to be having fun, but nobody else is going to be that same character. And I like this because it really makes it where there's not going to end up being a bunch of people trying to play as one character. Everybody actually has to diversify their talents, sort of in an Overwatch way. Let's take a little bit of a look of more in-depth of a match, me using some of these abilities. So just like any other battle royale, the main objective is to try and scavenge, finding different gear, finding different armor, and trying to get yourself as equipped as possible, as quickly as possible, to avoid just getting utterly decimated. So in this game, in this match particularly, what happened was I landed and both of my teammates ended up getting wiped out almost immediately. This is obviously a very bad thing, but there's something that's to my advantage, which is that I happen to be a killer class, somebody who is very expertly trained at dropping opponents. And thankfully, both of my teammates actually had microphones, so they were telling me, hey, they're actually still in this room, they're just sitting here looting our bodies. So I managed to run all the way across this base, go in there, fire one of my smoke grenades, which actually does a little bit of damage, hurt both these people, and then drop them like a bad freaking habit. Everybody just got completely wiped out by me. And then, here's where the really cool part happens. When your teammates die, they do not stay dead forever. There's actually 2 different ways you can bring people back. So if somebody is shot, but not completely at 0 health, what ends up happening is they fall over. That's called down but not out. When this happens, they're basically just crawling around the ground, and you can run over and try and pick them up. Here's me being revived right here. And once you're back on your feet, you're back. You have all the same gear, you have all the same loot, you have all the same bullets, you're totally fine. But there is a second option in this, which is very unique, which is that if you completely die, you can go up and your teammates can pick up your dog tag and then retrieve it. After they've done this, they can actually go up to one of these revive centers, put it in there, and then you will actually get a new airdrop. Now, as you've probably noticed, this is not incredibly easy. Actually, what happens is, trying to do this, you're going to have to stand still for about 10 seconds, which is going to put a big target on your back. You're going to be a sitting duck. But if you manage to do this, it can be a huge advantage. However, when people come back to life, they've lost all their loot, which means that they're going to have to get re-geared up. Still, it does provide an added option, an extra way to try and make a comeback if you've been terribly, terribly killed. I will say that this game is very, very heavily reliant on this system. This map is certainly smaller than any other Battle Royale I've ever played on. You are going to be bumping into people constantly, back to back. You're just going to literally be tripping over people the second you land till the second the match ends. And so because of this, working together with your teammates is the complete part of this game. It is the only thing that matters, is calling out targets, being able to communicate, and being ready to revive the second somebody drops. Playing into your strengths, playing into your class, and making sure everybody is maximizing their potential, because you will die a lot if you're not careful. Now, there is something that's very interesting about this, which is that they very heavily try and emphasize the idea of callouts. Just by tapping a shoulder button, I could actually immediately point out to any of my teammates if I saw an enemy, if I saw some armor, or if I saw anything that was actually useful. This is very obviously a big part of the game they're trying to really push forward, is that they want people, even if they don't have a microphone, to have a way to communicate. You need to have a way to constantly tell people what the heck is going on, or you're going to get wiped out in seconds. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the looting specifically. So like any other Battle Royale game that's in the modern sense, you're going to be going around and trying to pick up different guns. But what's really different in this one is that it tries to combine several different styles of looting. Basically, you'll find different guns like a pistol, a shotgun, a sniper rifle, and then you'll have to try and find lots of different add-ons for it. A butt of a rifle so it has less recoil, a huge scope so obviously you can see across the map, or things like that. But what's really peculiar about this is that there are lots of different tiers of loot, so you can get a super great scope and then a not so good silencer, or something like that. Something that'll make it where your gun reloads faster or has more ammunition, and then separately a different part. Something about this though that I really liked was that there's now this really added element of the quick equip system that I thought was smart, which is that if you're carrying two separate guns, which is the maximum amount, and you're coming along and you see something on the ground that's better, or something you actually want, like a machine gun or a shotgun, it will actually show you that if you swap, a certain amount of your parts will automatically be compatible, and it'll do it instantaneously. Just by swapping it out, it'll put all your old add-ons on the new gun, because obviously that's what you're going to want to do. This game is very centered on speed, trying to make sure everything is as fast as humanly possible. But even still, I think that there is a little bit of an issue with this game, which is that as much as I love the combat, it still feels like it's trying to be a Titanfall 3, but this isn't. They've actually confirmed the fact that this is in the Titanfall universe, but it will never have titans, it'll never have much falling, excuse the bad joke, and this is not something that's even supposed to be Titanfall 3. Titanfall 3 isn't even development, and it feels like it needs that. It feels like it needs more of a universal impact, something to make these matches have a little bit more to it. That's what so many other Battle Royale games manage to pull off. Like, even in Call of Duty Blackout, you understand that this is something that's part of a greater context. It has this really big map and these really big vehicles and this really big weight to it. Whereas Apex Legends, as fun as it is, it still feels very thin, especially because it's obviously going to be pushing microtransactions very heavily. So the developers have already said that within these loot crates, you're going to be finding new skins, new taunts, new cosmetic stuff, but along with this, they've specifically stated that they're going to also be putting into certain loot crates new characters, new legends, which basically makes me think that as the game goes along, more and more of the roster is going to be locked out. This is going to be a free-to-play game that over time becomes free to start. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does definitely make me worried that this is something that, because it is EA, it is Electronic Arts, it's going to become more predatory over time. It just makes me wish that there was some sort of story mode, something in this to make it a little bit closer to Titanfall 3, instead of just another free-to-play free-to-play battle royale with some really fun elements to it. I like this game. I like its abilities, I like the characters, and I like being challenged by the next match. I think that the fact that it has an announcer and so much music makes it really feel like a different flair to battle royale. But it's still just another game by EA at the end of the day. Well, but what did you think of it? Have you installed Apex Legends, and what do you think of it? Were you as blown away as I am, or are you just skeptical to even install it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. This is a good game. It's free. You should probably give it a shot. Give it a shot. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.